All right, so now we're going to do one-step inequalities. You definitely did this in 7th grade. So again, hopefully this one's just kind of like a review. And we kind of previewed this in the last lesson at the end with the write-in one that we did, the letter F. Okay, so how do I solve a one-step inequality? Well, it's really similar to solving a one-step equation. Hopefully you notice that there's no absolute vars, so we don't need to separate it into two things. That's only if there's absolute value bars. So now we just kind of draw the river. So after we draw the river, we have to think, what's the opposite of a -5? Well, it's to add 5 to both sides. After we do that, we're left with a D. Since we didn't multiply or divide by a negative, our inequality stays the same. And then 11 plus 5 is 16. So then we just do an open circle going to the left. Okay. I'm going to jump down to letter D. Hopefully you notice in letter D that there are the variable comes second, not that there aren't any, but the variable comes second. So you could either rewrite this at the beginning or just wait until the end. I tend to wait until the end so I don't confuse myself. So we're going to start by what's the opposite of adding 20? Well, that's subtracting 20 on both sides. Those cancel. We're left with W on that side. The inequality comes down. 7 minus 20 is -13. In order to graph, remember the variable needs to come first. So we have to flip this. So we do W first. Inequality sign flips because everything flips. And then -13. Then we do a closed circle at -13. And our inequality faces that direction. All right. So what I want you to do is go back and try B and C for me. So pause and try B and C. So gonna kind of go quick. Hopefully you subtracted 3. You got 14, which is a closed circle going that way. This is one. C is probably, if you did anything wrong, you probably didn't subtract 4 because you saw this plus sign. But the 4 is positive. So the opposite of a positive is a -4. So that's why we're subtracting. S stays, these are both negative. So that could have been another thing you went wrong with. And it should have been -41. You could have also noticed that none of those go past -38. So it couldn't have gotten bigger / smaller depending on your perspective. Okay, open circle going that way. All right, so that's addition and subtraction. Hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Now we are going to do multiplication and division, which is kind of where we got into letter F before. So this is more closely to letter F. We're going to start with A. Yeah, we're going to start with, no, just kidding. We're going to do B and C together, and then I'll ask you to do A and D, okay? So looking at B first, there is implied multiplication here. So we draw the river. The opposite of multiplying by 7 is to divide both sides by 7. And we're dividing by a positive, so nothing matters. It's just like addition or subtraction. Our inequality comes down. We have a -4. We're done. So then we do closed going this way. Okay. So because we're dividing by a positive, nothing changes. It only changes when you multiply or divide by a negative. So that's the important part, by a negative. Okay, then it flips. So we're going to see that in example C. So looking at example C, we have this little bar, which if you don't remember, a fraction really means division. So the opposite of dividing is to multiply on both sides by whatever's in the bottom. In this case, a -5. Let me draw the river if you must. Those -5s cancel. We're left with h. -6 times -5 is 30. But we just multiplied by a negative. So what happens is that my inequality sign flips. When I multiply or divide by a negative, my inequality sign flips the other direction. So now closed circle going to the left instead of the right. And we're going to do F together. One last one. Okay, so this is like the F from the last problem from lesson 2 that I've been talking about. So to start with, my variable is not first, so I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip everything. So I have -x. This flips to the other way. 7 just comes on over. Now I have to draw my river. Hopefully you remember that there's an implied 1 here. So to get rid of a -1, we divide both sides by -1. We're left with x. 7 divided by -1 is -7. And again, because I divided by a negative, my inequality sign flips. So my inequality sign flips to the other direction. So then it's an open circle going towards the right. All right. So now what I want you to do is go back and try A, D, and E on your own. Okay, so pause the video, try A, D, and E on your own. I'm just going to take you through those really quick for those of you that weren't sure what to do. So this is division, so you multiply by 2, those cancel. 13 times 2 is 26, so it's an open circle going to the left. D is multiplication, so you divide both sides by 15. I'm dividing by a positive, so nothing changes, and then that's just 3. So it's a closed circle going to the left. I think I said the last one was the left, but it was the right. E, again, multiplication, so you divide, this time by a -8. So I have C, 48 divided by -8 is -6. But because I divided by a negative, my inequality sign flips to the other direction. So now it's an open circle going to the left. Okay, so those were all those answers. And that's, again, the first part of your homework, those first 4 problems. Let's look at the bottom half of your homework because we didn't do any of those in the examples. So these you need to translate first. So write an inequality and then solve and graph. So if you don't remember the basic like operation words, that's going to be a little bit complicated. So you kind of have to pinpoint important words. So quotient, if you don't know, that means division, and it tells you what 2 things to divide. Then before you would have said less than means like subtraction, but really it says less than or equal to. So that tells you your symbol and then your other number. So quotient means to divide. So we're going to say x divided by 3. And I put x first because that's what comes first in the sentence. The quotient, so division of x and 3. So that's why I'm dividing them, is less than or equal to 5. And then you would just sit there and solve it. So we draw the river, multiply by 3, and we get x is less than or equal to 15. And then you would just put that on your number line. So I'm going to start with 15, numbers count up. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So do your number line, close circle, going towards the left. I'm going to have you do the rest, but I'm just going to help you with difference means subtraction. And then this just says greater than, which remember means this direction. And 3 says product. Oh, 3 says product, which means multiply those 2 things And then it says is not greater than. So if it's not greater than, then it's less than. Okay? So hopefully that'll help. Write those out, solve them, number your number line. Okay? And that's lesson 3.